So Anne-Marie Element was a young woman who'd always wanted to join the army, and she signed up in 2006 and she became a Royal Military Police officer. It was a job that she loved, and she felt very importantly that justice was a vital part of her life and a vital part of the army. In 2009, Anne-Marie reported that she had been the victim of rape, and she alleged that two of her colleagues had raped her, these two colleagues also being members of the Royal Military Police. She reported it straight away, and the investigation was actually conducted by the Royal Military Police themselves. By early 2010, a decision had been made that nobody should be prosecuted for this offence, this alleged offence. She then began to suffer, or had already by that point started suffering, from very serious bullying at the hands of some of her colleagues in the Royal Military Police. And a lot of that bullying at that point was rape-related bullying. It was as a direct consequence of the fact that she had reported rape against two colleagues. She also began to suffer enormous amounts of overwork and stress, what the coroner was later to call work-related despair. And she took her own life in October 2011. We were approached by the sisters following a very brief inquest which hadn't touched on any of these matters. We issued a judicial review and we got a fresh inquest which was heard this year, and in a very strongly worded verdict, having heard 3 weeks of evidence from people up and down the Royal Military Police, the coroner ruled that Anne-Marie had taken her own life following in part because of the lingering effects of an act of alleged rape, work-related despair and bullying, as well as the breakup of a brief relationship. You don't need to be a lawyer to understand that there's a potential problem where you've got, as in Anne-Marie's case, the Royal Military Police investigating the Royal Military Police.
We launched our military justice campaign in July 2013 because we think that the rights of servicemen and servicewomen are just as deserving of protection as the rights of civilians. As part of the campaign, we've produced a report about independence in the military justice system. All the good justice systems are built on independence. Independent police to investigate crimes, independent prosecutors to decide if there's a case to answer, independent decision makers like judges and juries, or even in other cases like ombudsmen to look at things that aren't crimes but still cause real problems. The problem is that the military justice system doesn't have enough independence, and this means that friends or colleagues can make decisions about people who they work with. This means there's a chance of bias creeping in and we reach the wrong decision. Through our extensive legal work in this area, we've learned that if a commanding officer receives an allegation of sexual assault, he can either decide to investigate it himself or can refer it to the police. Now surely it seems obvious to most people that this kind of serious allegation needs to be investigated by professionals rather than someone who knows the victim and possibly the perpetrator as well.
Liberty is also representing 3 of the deep cut families. The deep cut families are those the families of the 4 young service people who died in what are considered to be quite suspicious, unexplained circumstances at Deep Cut Barracks in Surrey. If there had been an independent investigation right at the outset, concerns might have been allayed, and we certainly wouldn't be where we are now, which is almost 20 years on, still having to ask very serious questions about what happened there to those young people.
The recommendations in our report are aimed at making sure that members of the armed forces are treated fairly in their day-to-day life. This isn't about the battlefield, this is just making sure that they're safe at home and on barracks abroad.